There was always something off about number 47 Windmere Lane. It sat between two normal homes in a quiet town where everyone knew each other and where children rode bicycles until dusk. But no one ever walked near 47. Not even the mailman. No one had seen the lights on in years. Its windows were dark, its paint chipped away like old skin. It looked hollow, but not empty. Michael had returned to the town after 13 years away. A long time, but nothing had changed. The roads still cracked the same way. The corner store still sold the same dusty candy bars, and Windmere Lane still had that same shiver about it. He hadn't planned to come back. He only returned because of the letter. It had no return address, no stamp, just his name in red ink, neatly written, almost careful. He'd found it slipped under the door of his apartment in the city. Inside was a single sentence. "Come home, Michael. The house remembers you." He didn't know what it meant, but deep down, a part of him did. When he arrived back in the town, the air was thicker than he remembered. It was late October. Leaves covered the sidewalks. The trees stood crooked as if listening. The fog rolled low and slow. He rented a room above the diner. The owner, Mrs. Halston, Ms. Halverson, recognized him instantly. "You're the Hargrove boy, aren't you?" She smiled, but her eyes flicked quickly toward the window, toward Windmere Lane. He didn't answer. That night, he walked alone to Windmere Lane, and there it was, 57, still standing, still untouched. The house had belonged to his grandfather, a man Michael barely remembered. He had lived alone. He never smiled. He kept every window covered with thick velvet curtains, and after he died, the house was locked and left to rot. Michael had never been back inside, not since that one night, the one he didn't talk about, the one even he tried to forget. He stepped closer. The front gate was rusted. Its hinges moaned when he pushed. It'd open. The porch creaked like it remembered him. He reached for the doorknob. The key, he realized, was already in his hand. He didn't know how. His fingers trembled, but the key slid in easily. The door opened without a sound. The inside smelled like time, like damp books and things better left untouched. Dust floated like memory. The furniture was all still there, covered in white cloths, like ghosts waiting for midnight. He stepped in. The door closed behind him. Not slammed, not slowly, just firmly, as though the house had decided something. Michael moved through the hallway. Everything was familiar and wrong. The wallpaper was peeling, but the photographs were still on the wall. One caught his eye, a picture of himself at 5 years old, sitting on the living room rug. Behind him stood a tall man in shadow, but it wasn't his grandfather. The face was blurred, smudged somehow, like someone had wiped it away with a wet thumb. He pulled the photo from the frame. There was something scrawled on the back. "Don't forget the basement." His throat dried. He didn't remember a basement, only the attic, and that one time the door had appeared where it shouldn't have. In the kitchen, the air was colder. The lights didn't work. He opened the pantry door. Nothing but shelves. But at the far end, he saw a line in the wall. A seam, a hidden panel maybe. He pushed. The wood creaked back, and there it was. A narrow staircase leading downward. He stared at it. Frozen. He should leave. He knew that. But something deep inside pulsed, like it remembered too. He took one step, then another. The stairs groaned like breath. Dust fell around him. The darkness was absolute, and yet he kept going. At the bottom, he found a room he didn't know existed, not empty, but full of things he remembered and didn't. a toy he hadn't seen since childhood. His mother's scarf, a newspaper dated years before he was born. And in the center, a chair, with a tape recorder on it. It clicked, then played a Michael. The voice said, "Come back upstairs." He didn't recognize the voice, but it sounded like it knew him. The tape ended. He stared at the recorder, not sure what to feel, not sure what to think. When he turned, the stairs were gone. He reached forward, touched the wall where they had been. Only cold stone. He turned again. The chair was empty now, and in its place stood a figure, tall, thin, wrapped in something dark, its head tilted, not threatening, just watching. Michael tried to speak, "Kay," but no sound came. The figure stepped back, melted into the shadow. Gone. And then the room began to breathe. Yes, breathe. The walls pulsed slowly. The dust danced faster. The air pushed against him. He closed his eyes, whispered the only word he could. Why? The room answered with a hum, like electricity in a dream. Then he opened his eyes, and he was back in the kitchen. No stairs, no chair, no recorder, only a single folded piece of paper on the floor. He picked it up, in that same red handwriting. "You've started remembering." Good. The house sighed. Michael stepped backward. He had questions, 1,000 of them. But the house wasn't answering yet. Outside, the fog pressed against the windows, like it was watching. And upstairs, somewhere, a door creaked open, inviting him forward. Michael didn't sleep that night. Not really. He lay in the rented room above the diner, the ceiling fan spinning slowly above him, but his thoughts spun faster. The note was still in his pocket. He'd taken it with him when he left the house, trying not to run, but walking faster than he wanted to admit. "You've started remembering." Good. He hadn't remembered anything. Not yet. Just the feeling, that strange feeling of something not quite right. Like walking into a room and forgetting why you came. Like hearing your name whispered just behind your shoulder when no one's there. The kind of feeling that burrows into the back of your mind and waits. The next morning, he stared at the house from across the street. It looked even worse in daylight. The shutters hung uneven. The porch sagged. The entire structure leaned just slightly, like it was whispering to the ground. It didn't look haunted. It looked tired. But inside, that was a different story. He knew what he saw hadn't been a dream. The stairs, the room, the chair, the figure, the message. It had all been real, hadn't it? He checked the photo he'd taken from the wall, still in his coat pocket. The same picture, the same child, the same blurred figure, and the back still said, "Don't forget the basement." Even though the stairs had vanished, Michael returned to the house in the afternoon. The fog had crept back early today. It wrapped around the sidewalk like it belonged there. He crossed the street slowly. This time, the gate didn't squeak when he opened it, almost like it had been waiting. He stepped inside. Same dust, same smell, same silence. But something was different. He couldn't place it right away. Not until he walked into the hallway and looked toward the living room. There, on the left wall, between the old grandfather clock and the bookshelf, was a door, a narrow wooden door with no knob, no frame, just wood, set into the wall like it had always been there. Only it hadn't. He was sure. He reached out, touched it. The wood felt warm, like skin left in the sun. His fingers trembled, and the door opened on its own. Inside was a hallway he didn't remember. Not narrow, but long, longer than should have fit inside the house. It stretched back and down into a dim glow, not natural light, not electric either, just a low, dull color, like old amber through dirty glass. He stepped in. The door closed behind him again. Of course it did. The hallway didn't echo. His footsteps were swallowed instantly. The carpet underfoot was thick, patterned with strange looping designs that shifted when he wasn't looking directly at them. On the walls hung portraits. Old ones, faded faces, some of them blurred like the photo, some with scratched-out eyes. One looked like his mother, but younger. Another looked like him. Only the eyes were all wrong, too wide, too knowing. He kept walking. The hallway ended at a circular room. No windows, no doors. Except one. Opposite where he entered, a red wooden door with black iron hinges, carved with symbols he couldn't read. He stepped closer. The symbols pulsed faintly, as though breathing. He didn't want to open it, but his hand reached anyway. Behind it was a staircase, winding downward. Of course it was. He took the first step. The stairs were stone, slick and cold. The air grew heavier with each step, like walking into a deep cave. Somewhere below, a slow, steady sound echoed. Not footsteps, not breathing, more like ticking. Faint but constant, he reached the bottom. A massive room opened before him. Circular again, the walls covered in bookshelves, but no titles on the spines, just symbols. And in the center of the room, a table, on it, a box, small, wooden, locked. Next to it, a single note, folded neatly, written in red ink. Again, he opened it. "You've done well to return. Some memories need help waking. The box belongs to you, but only when you're ready. The key is in the mirror that remembers." What did that mean? He looked around. Only books. Dust. Silence. Then, he noticed something. On one wall, a large mirror, but it wasn't reflecting the room. It showed a different room entirely, a child's bedroom. His bedroom. From when he was 7. The blue walls, the rocket ship lamp, the stack of books about explorers and deep-sea creatures. The reflection flickered slightly, like old film. And in the reflection, sitting on the edge of the bed, was him, but younger. And he was holding something. A key. Michael stepped closer to the mirror. The boy looked up, right at him. The eyes were hollow, not empty, just deep, like wells that had no bottom. The boy opened his mouth, but instead of words, a low, echoing hum filled the air. Michael covered his ears. When he looked again, the boy was gone. But now, the mirror showed something else, the box and the key. Sitting on top of it, he turned. The table behind him was still there, and the key was now resting on it. He didn't hear it appear, didn't see it drop. It was just there, waiting. He reached out, touched the key. It was warm. He picked it up, turned to the box, hesitated, then unlocked it. Inside was a photograph, one he didn't recognize at first. But then it clicked. It was his grandfather, only younger, standing next to another man. The same man from the photo in the hallway, the one with the blurred face. Only here, the face was clear, and Michael's stomach turned cold because it was his face. His only older, much older, older than he was now, with tired eyes and a slight smile. On the back of the photo, more writing. This is where it begins again, and ends again, and begins again. Welcome home. He dropped the photo, stepped back. What did it mean? Was he dreaming? Was he sick? He turned to leave the room, but the staircase was gone, the door too. Only stone walls. He looked at the mirror. Now it was a window, into the house's attic. He recognized the beams, the dust, the bisya. Broken rocking horse in the corner. And again, he saw movement, a figure, moving toward the mirror. Not the boy this time, but the older version of himself. The same man from the photo. Michael stepped back. The mirror rippled like water. And then a voice, soft, clear, from nowhere and everywhere. You can leave, but only through the memory you've forgotten. Then the floor shifted, and Michael was standing in the attic. His heart pounded. He didn't know how he got here, didn't feel himself move. He just was. The mirror behind him was gone, and in front of him was a rocking horse. But it wasn't broken anymore. And next to it, a door, one that hadn't been there before. The door was painted black. No handle, just a mark carved in the center. A circle, with a single eye inside it. It watched him. He knew somehow that what waited beyond that door would explain everything. The notes, the photos, the man with his face, the memory he hadn't yet remembered. But he also knew. Some things once remembered cannot be unremembered. He took a breath and reached for the door. The door opened without a sound. Michael stepped through. The air was thicker, as if it had been trapped in that space for years. Warm and still. The hallway beyond was short. Plain walls, bare floorboards, no windows. But at the end of the hall, a mirror hung crooked on the wall, smudged, cracked across the corner like it had seen something it shouldn't. And just in front of it, a table. On it, a journal. It was old, leather-bound, edges curled from age. Michael stepped toward it, hands trembling. As he picked it up, a folded scrap of yellowed paper slipped out. He opened it. The handwriting was messy, frantic. It read, "Don't read aloud. Don't let it hear you. If you reach the memory, don't stop." He looked back at the mirror. His reflection stared back, but it blinked too slowly. He placed the paper aside, opened the journal. Inside were pages and pages, dates, names, diagrams of the house, strange symbols, and scattered between the lines. A story half told, half remembered. It was written in first person. I came to the house because it called to me. The dreams started first, then the voice in the hallway. It told me about the memory, the one we all forget until it's time to remember again. It showed me the door. It let me go once, but not twice. Not again, not now. I'm writing this to myself because I need to leave myself a trail. Michael turned the page. Another entry. Shorter. The man in the mirror said, "We've done this before." Said I asked for it. Said I opened the door willingly. But I don't remember doing it. I only remember the whispering. The voice that said, "Find the room. The one no one sees." Michael's fingers went cold. He flipped through more pages. Saw a symbol again. That same eye, in the circle, it was everywhere. Next to his name, carved into drawings of the floor plan, stamped beside a date, October 19th, 1994. That was the day his grandfather died. He remembered now, vaguely, the smell of smoke, the sirens, the quiet after. His mother had cried, but hadn't explained, just packed their bags and left town the next morning, and she never spoke of it again. He closed the journal. The mirror behind him shifted, not the reflection. The glass, like something behind it had moved, something waiting. Michael turned, stared at the surface. His reflection smiled, but he hadn't. The face in the mirror raised one hand slowly and pointed to the wall on Michael's right. He turned his head. There was nothing there, just wallpaper, pale and peeling. But now, as he looked harder, he saw the edges of a door, hidden beneath the paper, painted over long ago. His heart thudded. He walked to it, touched the seam. The wallpaper peeled under his fingers. The shape of the door became clear, narrow, low, like a crawl space. He pressed against it. The door opened. Inside was a narrow staircase, stone again, descending sharply. He hesitated only a second, then stepped down. The air grew colder. The light dimmed. Below, the stone hallway led to a room that wasn't in any blueprint, not in any memory. And yet, he knew it. He had been here before. He didn't know how or when, but he had. In the center of the room was a cradle, not old, not new, just there. He stepped closer. Inside the cradle was a bundle of fabric, soft blue tied with twine. He reached down, unwrapped it. Inside was another photo, a child, not him, a girl. Dark hair, blank stare, no name written, just a date on the back, October 19th, 1994. The same date, something moved behind him. He turned quickly, nothing. The shadows didn't even flinch. He looked again at the cradle. Now it was empty. The photo was gone, the fabric neatly folded, as if no one had touched it. Michael backed away slowly. His hands were shaking. In the far wall, he noticed a painting, not hung, not framed, just painted directly onto the stone, a forest, dark and tangled. In the center, a figure standing alone, back turned, face hidden. But the shape was familiar, too familiar. Michael leaned in. In the corner of the painting, small and nearly faded, were words scratched into the wall. He walks with the house. He remembers the roots. He sees what was hidden and forgets what was known. He reached out, touched the words. The wall crumbled around his hand. Behind it, a hole, and inside the hole, another key. This one was black, cold to the touch. He pulled it free. The moment he did, the lights in the room dimmed further. Something behind him exhaled, low, rough, like the groan of an old tree. He didn't look back. He ran, up the stairs back into the hallway, past the mirror, which no longer showed a reflection, only fog. He pushed through the first door he came to and found himself in the attic again. He dropped to the floor, breathing hard. The attic was quiet, but something had changed. There were footprints in the dust, leading to a large wardrobe in the corner, one that hadn't been there before. He approached carefully, opened it. Inside, darkness, but not empty. The smell of fire and flowers drifted out, mixed in a way that made his stomach churn. And at the back of the wardrobe, a staircase, narrow, ending again. How many stairs did this house have? How far down could it go? Michael stared into the dark, then stepped forward. The air closed behind him. The door creaked shut, and the whispering began. Soft, too quiet to understand, but close, too close. At the bottom was a room lit by candles. Dozens of them. The walls were covered in writing, the same symbols from the journal. The circle, the eye, and in the center of the room, a mirror. Tall, framed in iron, unlike the last ones, this mirror didn't show him. It showed a room, an operating room, metal tools on a tray, a leather chair with straps. And in that chair, someone sat. Michael stepped closer. The person turned slightly. It was him, mouth open, eyes blank. Another figure moved behind him in the mirror. The man from the photo, the older version of himself, wearing a coat, holding a scalpel. He leaned in, whispered something into Michael's ear. The Michael in the chair nodded. Then the figure looked up, and stared directly at the real Michael. Through the mirror, and smiled. The candles flickered out. Darkness, total. Michael stood frozen, and then a sound, a soft knock. From the other side of the mirror, once, twice, 3 times. The mirror cracked, a thin line from corner to corner. And then, from behind him, a voice. Quiet, but close. You remember now. Michael turned. No one there. Just the sound of footsteps fading into the dark. The mirror stood silent now, cracked from corner to corner. The image inside had faded, but Michael could still feel it watching. He didn't know how he'd gotten back to the attic. Or maybe he never left. His head was heavy. Not dizzy, just full, like too many thoughts were trying to rise at once. He stood up slowly. The dust swirled gently around his feet, like it had been waiting. He checked his pockets. The black key was still there, cold, solid, real. The journal, too, somehow. Though he didn't remember carrying it, the door at the far end of the attic was now open. It hadn't been a moment ago. Beyond it, only darkness, and a soft humming sound, like a lullaby played backward. He stepped forward. The hallway beyond the attic was lined with mirrors, not just a few. Dozens, maybe hundreds, stacked on both sides. Tall, narrow, every kind of frame, but no reflection in any of them, not even his, just glass, still waiting. As he passed them, he felt something tug at him, not physically, but inside, as if each mirror pulled a tiny thread from his thoughts, each one whispering a name, a date, a forgotten face. He didn't stop to listen. He kept walking. The hall turned sharply left, and there it was, a wooden door, old, almost splintered, with a symbol burned into it, the same circle, the same eye. The black key in his pocket grew warm. He pulled it out, held it against the door. It clicked without turning. The door opened inward, and Michael stepped into the room he hadn't thought about in 13 years. It was the basement, but not how he remembered it. It was brighter now, lit by a soft golden light with no clear source. The floor was tiled. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper, and there, in the center, a small wooden chair. Not broken, not dusty, just placed there gently, as if a child had just stood up from it. Michael froze. He knew this room. He had been here before. Long ago, when he was still a child, he didn't remember why. Not yet. But his body did. His knees weakened, his fingers trembled, and then he saw the box. Not the one from before. A different one, larger, more worn, carved with the same symbol. Next to it, a cassette player, no tape inside, but beside it, a tape labeled in red ink. Play me when you remember. Michael picked it up, held it like it might burn him, and then, from behind, a voice. You found it. He turned quickly. No one was there, but the air had changed, thicker now, filled with the scent of smoke and rain. He turned back to the player, slipped in the tape, pressed play. Static. Then a voice. Young, afraid. It was his, from years ago. I don't want to be here. I don't like the man. He says I have to remember, but I don't want to. I want to go home. Please, tell Mom I want to go home. Then silence. Click. The tape ended. Michael stood still, not breathing. The sound of his younger self trapped in time. He tried to pull the tape out, but it was stuck. Then the box began to hum. Faint, low. He opened it. Inside, another photo. This time of the house, but from far above, like an aerial shot. Except, it was too detailed. He could see inside the rooms, like the roof was gone. Each room held a version of himself, sitting, standing, lying down. 10 different Michaels, all in different stages of life. One crying, one screaming, one sleeping, one whispering to someone who wasn't there. And at the very center of the house, a dark shape, tall, thin, featureless, watching them all, watching him. Michael dropped the photo. It landed face up, and now the image had changed. Only one version of him remained. This one, now in this room. And the dark shape was no longer in the center. It was standing behind him. He turned, still nothing there. But the light had dimmed, the hum had grown louder, and the box had closed itself. Michael backed away. The door was gone, again. No sound this time, no warning, just gone. He was alone in the room, with the box, the tape, and the photo that didn't stop changing. Now, the image showed a staircase, leading down even deeper, and a door at the bottom. Open. Inside it, a mirror. He looked up. There on the far wall, a door he hadn't seen before, small, barely wide enough for him to fit. But there, he approached. It opened before he touched it. Beyond it, stairs, stone, descending again. Of course. This time, the staircase spiraled, and the walls were covered in chalk drawings. Childlike, stick figures, symbols, Cage's eyes, so many eyes, drawn again and again, some weeping, some closed, some wide and cracked. Michael ran his hand along them as he passed. They were warm, faintly pulsing. Like veins, he reached the bottom. Another room. This one round, plain, no furniture, just a large circle drawn on the floor. And in the center, a child, sitting with knees pulled to chest, face buried, shaking slightly. Michael stepped closer. The child didn't move. He knelt, spoke softly. "Hey, are you okay?" The child looked up. It was him, younger, maybe 7. Eyes red, tears fresh. The boy stared at him, then said, "You left me here. You promised you wouldn't. You said I'd forget, but I didn't." Michael's breath caught. "I didn't know. I didn't remember." The boy shook his head. "You gave me to the house, so you wouldn't remember." The room trembled, a low moan rising from the walls. The circle on the floor glowed dimly. The boy stood, and behind him, the dark shape again, closer, clearer. It stepped into the circle, and suddenly Michael understood this was the room that kept the truth, the one he had buried so deep he didn't even know it was gone, and now it was waking. The boy reached into his pocket, pulled out the photo, the one with all the versions of Michael, held it up, and it changed one last time. Now there was only one image left. Him, in this moment, staring into the dark, with the shadow moving toward him. The boy whispered, "If you want to leave, you have to remember what you did, all of it." And then the shadow touched the edge of the circle. Michael's head filled with sound. Voices, screams, laughter, a lullaby. The house breathed in, and everything went dark. It was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes with peace, but the kind that follows something breaking. Michael opened his eyes slowly. The room was gone. The shadow, the boy, the glowing circle, everything. He stood alone, but not outside, not in the attic, not even in the basement. He was somewhere else. A long corridor, white walls, wooden floor, paintings hung evenly on either side. It felt like a waiting room, but for what? He didn't know. No sound, no air, only the soft click of his own steps. At the end of the corridor was a door. It looked normal, almost out of place. White paint, a brass handle, and something taped to it. A note. He reached for it with slow hands. The paper was thin. The handwriting rushed. "You're almost there. Don't stop now. This memory belongs to someone, but not to you, and not yet. If you open this door, you'll know what the house never wanted you to remember. Walk through, and we become whole again." Michael didn't know what it meant, but part of him did. He turned the handle. The room inside was not old, not broken. It looked brand new. Bookshelves lined one wall, a small desk with a lamp, a bed neatly made. Toys stacked carefully in one corner. It was a child's room, but not his. At least that's what he thought, until he saw the picture on the wall, a framed photo of a woman holding a baby. The woman was his mother, smiling wide, young, unfamiliar. The baby wasn't him. He stepped closer, looked at the name carved into the wooden frame, Nathaniel Hargrove. Michael frowned. That name, he didn't know it, and yet it rang in his bones like a bell. He turned. The door had closed. Of course it had. He looked around the room again. Something felt wrong, off. Everything was too clean, too arranged, like a memory someone had built on purpose, instead of lived. On the desk, a folder. He opened it slowly. Inside were newspaper clippings. Old yellowed, one headline read, "Local boy missing from Windmere Lane home." He scanned the story. Nathaniel, age 7. Last seen October 19th, 1994. Vanished from the basement of 47 Windmere Lane. No trace found. Search ended after 1 week. A photo beneath the article showed the child. Same eyes, same expression. Michael sat down, his head spinning. He'd never known a Nathaniel, never heard of him. But the date, the address. The same as the day his grandfather died. The same as the journal entry. The same as the voice on the tape. It didn't make sense until he saw the last paper in the folder, a birth certificate. Nathaniel Michael Hargrove. His full name. He stared at it. The room pulsed around him. Things started to shift. The bed frame bent. The lamp flickered. The bookshelf bowed. It wasn't a room anymore. It was memory. Rotting from the inside, and he was trapped inside it. Michael stood. The walls were changing. Photographs bled into the wallpaper. Shadows crept through the floorboards. He opened the closet. Inside, a mirror, of course, and I. The reflection. A man stood behind him. Older, tired. The same face as the one in the journal. The same face as his. Only this time, the man was crying. Tears, slow and steady. Michael turned around. No one there. He turned back to the mirror. Now it showed the basement, the chair, the box, the photo, the younger boy sitting in the circle again. This time, the boy looked at him directly. "You promised," he said. Michael stepped back. "I didn't know." The boy tilted his head. "But now you do." The mirror shattered, but no glass fell. Instead, the surface became soft, like fog, like memory. Michael reached forward, touched it. His fingers passed through, and he stepped in. He was back in the house, the real house, Windmere Lane, but different now, no longer haunted, no longer angry. It felt still, complete. In the living room, the fireplace was lit, soft crackles filling the space with warmth. A photo sat on the mantel, of his mother, smiling. Next to it, a photo of him. But as a boy, holding hands with someone, he leaned in. The second child was Nathaniel. Of course he was. The house hadn't been haunted. It had been remembering, and waiting for him to remember too. He sat down on the couch, let the warmth settle in. No shadows, no whispers, no strange doors, only silence. And then a knock at the door. Michael stood, opened it. The fog outside had cleared, and a figure waited on the porch. Small, a boy. The boy, Nathaniel. He smiled and stepped inside. The house didn't breathe anymore. It rested, and so did Michael. Thank you for listening to this story. The fog lifts now, but it never leaves for long. If you enjoyed this tale, subscribe to my channel, Echoes in the Fog, for more horror and mystery stories whispered gently into the dark. And now, I hope you find a soft pillow, a quiet mind, and a very good sleep.